when we, as Feeding South Dakota, think about our community partners, it's really in our mind an extension of the work that we're doing. Like the work to fight hunger in South Dakota would not be possible if it weren't for places like the
Right,
storehouse
right,
that are here and doing the things in the time we're not here.
right,
And so if we're able to provide food
right.
to those partners to keep that work going,
Yeah, and it's a place.
that's
It's
how
a
we
place for distributing again.
right, and it
Yeah.
feels like we can maybe make
Hmm.
make some headway. Thank you for joining us for another episode of 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. I'm Stacy Andernacht, the Vice President of Communications for Feeding South Dakota, and today I'm in Custer with Kim Canete with the Storehouse. We're going to have some conversation around the work that the Storehouse is doing here in Custer, what food insecurity looks like here, and what the future of the Storehouse looks like. Kim, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I caught you a little off guard with the future of the Storehouse, didn't I?
A little bit. We have plans.
You have plans. That's great.
Yeah.
So tell me, let's start a little bit. Tell me about Custer. Tell me about your community, the type of people who live here, and the type of people who utilize your program.
The people that use our program are usually families, or there's a lot of couples too. The community is very heavy with the tourism industry. So we are very busy in the summer. People find jobs in the summer. There's more to do. In the winter, everything kind of closes down. And the year round population is a lot of retired folks. And so that's kind of how it leans. We're suffering the same problems a lot of people do, no housing for workers. Um, they have trouble with the sheriff's department. They don't have places for them to live. They're not real competitive with salaries. So there's a lot of issues that cause the same griefs that other communities do.
Mhm.
And the housing for hospital workers, teachers, librarians, you try to bring these people in, give it a competitive wage, and then they can't find a place to live. So in the winter, we might see an uptick in use because there's not the summer jobs. It's colder, more gas, more heat is needed. Of course, the cost of groceries have gone up so much too.
Mhm.
So that's where I think we're busiest. But also in the summer, we do have international workers come in that work a lot of the tourist industry, and we provide food for them too. So we have get a little busier that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when we think about hunger and food insecurity in communities, there's these root causes that we talk about, and
Hmm.
you mentioned employment being
Hmm.
one of them. Transportation is
Hmm.
another. Um, uh, Custer is a good sized community.
Hmm.
A lot of different resources. I noticed a couple dollar stores.
Hmm.
You've got a grocery store,
Hmm.
uh, and also a pretty close proximity community.
Hmm.
So really, it comes down to that employment, that
Hmm.
year round employment.
Hmm.
So the individuals that are using your program, you mentioned housing being a challenge. Do they typically have housing? Are you seeing individuals who are facing homelessness or living from vehicles or anything like that? Or
We don't see a heavy homeless population, but I know there are times where people are in their car.
okay.
Another thing that happens here in Custer is people living in the woods.
Hmm.
They've got a camper out there or a tent. Some of them year round.
Okay.
A lot of the campgrounds here are full during the winter because it's people that couldn't find better housing, so
Mm.
they get a camper and stay for the winter. And then the summer hits and prices go up with the VRBOs and the campsites and stuff because they're renting out to the tourists
Mhm.
instead. So it kind of goes back and forth winter and summer like that too. Um, Way back when we first started doing some stuff, talking with Michelle, who was the family advocate with the elementary school, and we're talking about what do we charge? Do we charge?
Mhm.
And she says sometimes it comes down for families to have to decide whether they pay for the gas or pay for the medicine.
Yes.
And so we don't want to be a factor in that decision.
Mm.
We want the food here or the household items here for those families when they need them, and we don't want it to be another cost.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's how we ended up doing what we're doing.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. We had some conversation before we have sat down here today, but take me back to how this started and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, the food pantry started in the basement of the senior center, and the senior center of the building was originally the funeral home.
Mm.
And so they used to bring caskets down the back steps.
Okay.
That's how you got to the pantry. You went down the back steps.
Wow.
And it was a pastor and another couple ladies that started just keeping food and handing out to people that they knew needed it.
Sure.
Well, then the senior center let them have a whole room, the pantry, a whole room in it. And I think that started in 96. And I joined the pantry in 98. I just came on just to do some bookkeeping for them. I was taking the place of another lady. So it was me and another lady that kind of ran it. We expanded to a second room, and that's where we were for several years. And then, like I had said, we started getting a lot of household items that got left at the pantry. And then people would come in, we're actually going through it and needing those things. So we said we needed something for the household items. So we started what we called the Custer County Community Exchange. We got a board of directors together, set down our policies and such, and we opened up in the basement of a church east of town. And the day we opened, we were packed full. We just had so much stuff. So we were there for a year, and we said, we need to combine these and find a building. So we went searching for the building, applied for and got the grant and got this building. And like I said, we've expanded 3 times.
Wow.
And we're not going to spend any more. We don't have any more space on the lot. The only direction we can go is up. And our builder said, this doesn't support a second.
Sure.
So we are where we are.
So it really started in 2 separate locations. So if people needed food, they'd go to the
Senior
senior
center.
center, and then they'd have to travel to the church
Yeah.
for other items.
Yeah, the church is like 2 miles east of town.
Okay.
And they had added on to their building, but they hadn't finished the basement. But when I asked, can we do this, they finished the basement for us. But like I said, it was just packed. It was just packed.
So we walked through the building here. You have a nice building. It expanded. So you've got your furniture section and your clothing and your housewares and your pantry. But you've got some great things out here. I mean, there's beds, there's couches. All of this comes from the community.
Absolutely.
So I love your red door donations. I think that just has such a great tagline, such a good ring to it. Tell me about, the types of donations that you get, how often people are bringing things. And
every single day we're open. And then when we're not open, they leave it in the back. And we also have food drives. Or we have families that say, I have a whole load of stuff. Can I bring it in? And we're not open. Yeah, bring it in. It's constant. We are constantly bringing stuff in.
And you said it just turns over so quickly.
Right. I should say the very first priority of the storehouse has always been to feed families, feed children. So if someone donates money to the storehouse, it automatically goes to the food budget to pay for the food that we purchase from the grocery stores or Feeding South Dakota. And then after that, if people let us, we'll put it in a different account, like for maintaining the building. But then we only do that if we ask them or they designate it that way. Also, what happens is we have several other programs. We have, besides the open days here for regular distribution, we run the summer sack lunch program at the YMCA. And so we have teams of people in the community that do the work, and they make the sandwiches, put the bags in the refrigerator and such. But it's on our budget, and we set it up and we monitor it and such. And kids can run in all summer and grab a lunch out of that refrigerator.
How many kids do you suppose get served through that program?
Well, probably 100 a week. Yeah. And a lot of them are repeat, though. Some of them.
Sure.
And I've done it where I've been out there stocking for the next day, and they're coming in and getting supper. So you don't really know. It's probably our loosest program where we keep least track of who comes in and out.
Sure.
Right. The only supervision is the program director and whoever's working at the YMCA. So we partner with them because they do keep an eye on stuff.
Sure.
And they'll alert us to needs or something going on and stuff. But we just don't require any kind of sign-in or anything. I know one time the program director was concerned. He says, those girls have been in loading up every day. And I went over and I just talked to him, say, hey, do you girls live around here? And the oldest one was a little bit evasive, and we were talking a little bit. And I said, that's fine. Go ahead, fill that up. And I stepped back and I said, they're living in a camper in the woods. And this is the only lunch they're getting. So that's kind of loose. Then we also do what we call the Wildcat Pantry. And this is a pantry behind the administration offices in the high school. And this is for high school kids. And so the office folks kind of keep an eye on it. But we keep that stock too for stuff that's easy for guys to catch. Because think about it, you have a 6-foot, 16-year-old boy, and even if he's getting free meals, he needs more calories. So they're allowed to pull out of there for like lunch type meals and snacks and such. So that's the Wildcat Pantry. We were doing the backpack program. We started the backpack program. And again, we'd use teams from the community. We'd be a civic group or a church group. People get together And sometimes they donate and want to provide the food themselves, and sometimes they can't. And then we have a budget for it. So they would pull the backpack bags together and leave
Yep.
them at the school. And
Yep.
they were doing that for 4 weeks a month
Mhm.
and doing the whole thing. And this last couple of years, it's gotten harder and harder for them to provide as much as Feeding South Dakota would. So
Mhm.
I called Feeding South Dakota, talked to the director. We kind of talked about numbers and stuff. She says, we can do it.
Yeah.
So they took over. And so Feeding South Dakota is now doing the backpack
Mhm.
program.
Mhm.
But because we were doing the backpack program for the grade school, that's why we started the Wildcat for the high school.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that happening because while the backpack units are great and elementary kids you don't think twice about taking a bag of food
Right.
home, when you hit that middle and high school age, it becomes a little more difficult because they
Mm-hmm.
have a stigma to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean those kids don't need food access. And so when there's a place they can
Yeah.
go to get that and just put it in their backpack, it makes it a little bit easier for them.
Well, I talked to some people that in the school system, and what they said about the kids in the grade school was they'd share what they had.
Mhm.
Sometimes the ones that was, we didn't know who was getting it. We'd send a waiver
Right.
out. So the teachers, our counselor would get the waivers to the families, say, we'll fill this if you want it. If you don't, tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know who it goes to. In fact, the teachers are the ones that really know who the bags went to.
Yeah.
And they put it in the kids' bags,
Yes.
their backpacks. But the kids would open it up and say, hey, do you want some of this? And they were sharing. And then in the high school, what we heard was the high school kids that became aware of it were telling other high school kids, hey, if you need that, that's back there.
Wow.
There wasn't a stigmatism. There was a, hey, there's something here for you. They're keeping an eye on each other.
Wow.
So that's kind of how that works. So that's been really good.
You mentioned that, you feeding kids. It was
Mhm.
very important to feed kids.
Mhm.
How did you become aware that there was the need to feed kids here in Custer?
Like I said, family advocate. I have to say her name, Michelle Watland. She's family advocate with the grade school, and she was president of our board for a long time. She eventually retired, and she's busy being grandma. So she's done, but she got us started. And so she was one of the founding members of what we called the Exchange, too. And she's the one that was in family homes.
So was there another food access resource for people who couldn't afford food at that time?
Just, SNAP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not something you had to qualify for.
Right.
Not just
right. You had to do the paperwork.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So so she saw the need. She was going into homes, noticed the empty cupboards. And
Oh yeah, she knew.
refrigerators.
Yeah. And when you're in the school system, you hear about people that need
Mhm.
stuff, and because the teachers are trying to help these kids out too with their classes, they're well aware of what's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's communicated.
And although the storehouse is here as a resource, it hasn't changed. Child hunger is still a real thing.
No. I mean, we're doing what we can to help, but it doesn't take care of it.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Well, back to those root causes, right? You have to
Mhm,
meet
mhm.
those before they move on. So, you've mentioned all the programs.
We still have another one.
Have more. Keep going.
So in 2020, right before COVID hit, we started talking with one of the city council people in Buffalo Gap and said we're interested in opening a food pantry for a
Mhm.
year. I was like, great, let's do this. I have a space for you. The space had no heat, no water, and we would load up trucks of food once a month. We gave double portion because we were there just once a month. We gave double portion to what we usually do here in the storehouse. And we would unload all the food, set up the tables, have a 2-hour distribution. And then when we're done, we load it up with whatever was left and bring it back.
Wow.
And we had volunteers that were doing that. Pickup trucks. We have 2-3 pickup trucks, and we would haul it. And we were doing that once a month. And we decided to do that in 2020, right when COVID hit.
So many things happened right at that just
it's
instrumental time in
yes.
world history.
Yes.
Yeah.
But since then, they've gotten air conditioning in the building because Buffalo Gap is very warm, and they got plumbing and everything. So we're very comfortable there. And then they gave us a room.
Okay.
And so we got in the shelves. We bought them a refrigerator. We bought them a freezer, stand-up freezer, bins and everything. So we gave them the supplies. And they've eventually developed their own distribution team, people from the community that come in and actually hand out the food. And we still supply because they're our satellite pantry. And we purchase for them from Feeding South Dakota as well. But it stops here, and then we have teams that take it out to them as they need it.
To them. So how far is Buffalo Gap from here?
Oh, it's 30-something miles. It's a 45-minute drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the food access? I've never
No
been.
grocery store.
Okay.
No
All right.
grocery store.
So what's the need look like there?
It's a lot of old ranchers,
Okay.
kind of retired,
Sure.
um, not in the best health,
Mm.
have a hard time getting into
Hmm.
town. Some young families, they're living in Hot Springs or living in Buffalo Gap, going to school in Hot Springs or working in Hot Springs. So it's you might call it like a bedroom community.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So no gas station. They
Mm.
do have a post office. They have a community hall. They are a strong community of people,
But not food access.
but no food access unless you go into Hot Springs.
Wow.
And what we found out when we decided to do this, we have a board member named Marge McCulley, who actually was born in Buffalo Gap on 33, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
She's 97. I tell everybody how
Wow.
old she is, so she doesn't care if I tell. But she was born there, and that's always been on her heart. So she's the one that said,
Yeah.
"Can we go to Buffalo Gap?" And
Mhm.
so I said, "Okay, let's see what we can do." And so we do that. So that's her baby over there. And if you see, we have a shelf over here. It says Buffalo Gap. That's for staging for Buffalo Gap. It gets its own little place. So
So you mentioned holiday meals,
yes,
preparing for holiday meals. Do you carry that over into Buffalo Gap as well?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
We the holiday meals is part of what they call Custer Ministerial Alliance's Custer Community Christmas.
Okay.
So they do a dinner. They do what they call select a gift, where they hand out gifts and gift cards, and then the Christmas dinner baskets, which we're in charge of. So we
Okay.
do all the collection for it and bag them up and hand them out and such. And we do that the third Saturday of every December, and that's been going on since I can remember, since at least '98. And of course, it's grown. And then when we did start the Buffalo Gap Pantry, we said, "Oh, we got to do Christmas out there." So I go out there with usually another couple and stuff, and we take the gifts and the baskets out to Buffalo Gap during the regular distribution. So we do that the same day it's happening in Custer. So
So you mentioned about that COVID time frame,
hmm
and Feeding South Dakota within that time frame transitioned to mobile food distributions
exactly, yeah.
and started bringing trucks of food into communities, pre-packed boxes that volunteers loaded into vehicles. So it was that safe, no contact way of
hmm
getting food to people. Can you just share a little bit about how that evolved here in Custer?
Well, of course, we had a relationship with Feeding South Dakota because we're purchasing.
Hmm.
And so they said, "Can we?" When we started the mobile pantry, they said, "Can we distribute in your parking lot?" I was like, "Oh, absolutely." So they would come, and we got to know the guys, and some of our volunteers would hang out and help. And of course, it started out 20 to 40 boxes the first couple times. I can remember that
Hmm.
summer standing out in the gravel parking lot, and it's like it didn't take that long. We're like, "Oh, we can do this." Well, it got busier, and people were filling the parking lot and overflowing. And we have some folks that run the Dakota Roasted right over here, and their parking lot was getting used up and such. So we need to move it. So we went out to what's called the Flintstones. If people are been in the hills for a while, you remember Flintstones, and the Custer folks still call it Flintstones, even though it's not Flintstones anymore. But we used that parking lot up to a certain point, and it started to get too big. And so we moved out to Custer Lutheran Fellowship, which is east of town, which is the church that let us have the exchange initially. The church is very active in the community. And along with the growth of distribution, we added more and more volunteers. So Custer provides 24 volunteers every month for the mobile pantry just to help them out.
And serves like well over 150 families a month.
Yeah, we were kind of stalled at 160, and all of a sudden it's going up again.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
hmm
Holiday season tends to
A
do
little
that a
bit.
little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So, what Feeding South Dakota provides through those mobile distributions is about 50 to 55 pounds of food. Not
hmm
enough food for a full month because it's a once a month distribution, and that's how families end up here at the storehouse. How often can they come to the
They can
storehouse?
come to the storehouse twice a month.
Okay.
And we worked up a little sheet, and one side has all the information about when the storehouse is open, and you flip it over and it has the mobile pantry dates on it. And we keep the proxy
Mm,
vouchers here
mm,
too, so
mhm.
people can come. So we're working in partnership with
Yes.
Feeding South Dakota to make that mobile pantry
And that's so
work.
important. And a lot of times when we talk about the work that we do, and the fact that we serve communities across the state, it is about community
hmm
helping community.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was so touched by some of the things you shared with me earlier about how well the Custer community supports the work you're doing here.
hmm
Not just um, the constant drop off of donated items, from beds to healthcare items to clothing to, all
hmm
of the things, but even just the bigger support that I want to talk about just a little bit first. You've talked about how you've had needs within the building.
hmm
and that, it comes in at this price tag, but it doesn't actually end up being that price tag.
Yeah, right.
And so I don't want to call people out because I know they don't do it for the recognition, but that's an incredible thing to me that a business,
Mhm.
can look at what you're doing and say,
Oh, yeah.
gosh, we'd rather have them investing the money in the food
Right.
or the things that people in the community need instead of in laying cement or putting
Mhm.
siding on or
Mhm.
that type
Mhm.
of thing
Mhm.
in this expansion.
Right.
And I just think that's so touching and so incredible. But you told me, I was just before I was going to ask you, you how many staff you have. You told me this is completely volunteer run.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your volunteers.
Oh, all from the beginning. I have to say it's grassroots in that we don't have any other funds coming in except what somebody wants to give us.
Mhm.
Some family foundations, some grants and such, but we don't get city provision. We don't get county. We don't get
Government dollars.
government, no
Mhm.
federal dollars. So it all comes in from the community. Same with the volunteers, 100% volunteer participation. Some once a month they come in to work their 3-hour shift. They do great. Others come in when we're closed and clean the building. Others come in to help do the loading and unloading of the orders. Sometimes they'll deliver to people. I mean, there's a volunteer to do everything.
Mhm.
And we do have an 8-member working board of directors that they do the business, they do the treasury, the secretary, the president, the thank yous, the maintaining the building, keeping their eyes on stuff. I mean, it's just there's anybody that's involved has a job. They,
Mhm.
something that they enjoy doing, they're really good at, and we put them where they're happy.
Mhm.
So it's a very happy place.
And it ranges from kids to retired individuals.
Yeah, it starts from like 8-year-old up to, as I said, Marge is 97.
That's
So
incredible.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just so great to, have that you're not alone in this.
Oh, absolutely.
People are willing to come in and pitch in. And I think when you think about kids helping, they may be seeing it in their school and
Oh
seeing
yeah.
the impact, and they want to come because they know that families are getting resources through this. So,
I have to say, one of the biggest food drives we have every year, it started at least 10 years ago. They called it Stuff a Truck.
okay.
So the
Stuff a
great,
truck. You guys
yes.
have great taglines here in Custer.
So it was with the senior center. So it was still when we're still at the senior center. And the school and the chamber put it together, and they challenged the kids to stuff a truck full of groceries. So
Okay, so are we talking about like a pickup truck? Or are we talking
pickup
about
truck,
okay,
a pickup
okay.
truck. That's how it started.
All right.
But they do it every year. And they do it right before Thanksgiving. And it's the chamber works with the kids, and the kids have a little bit of competition. And they will bring in literally a ton of food, 2,000 pounds of food easily. And they do that every year. And that comes from the grade school or in the
Wow.
high school. And like I said, in the chamber, the senior center isn't doing it anymore. But I mean, the chamber gets this going, and they get to football teams to come and unload the food and such. So
That's great
yeah,
because that's a lot of food to
it is a
unload.
lot of food.
And then sort.
Yes, and well, then they bring it in our door, and then we just alert the volunteers, hey, we got this coming in, and we line up on the tables and go to it.
And there it goes.
Yeah.
So if I'm a family that needs the resources that you're providing, tell me a little bit about how that works for me.
You come to the window and say, I could use some food. And they say, okay, we're going to fill out this card. Are you Custer County resident? Yes, good. All right, we'll fill this out. How many in your family? How old are the kids and stuff? All right, you can come twice a month. And we keep track of how your visits. Okay, that's it.
So I don't have to bring paperwork. I
No.
don't have to show you an income qualifier.
Nothing.
And I think that's, when we talk about this work that's being done, there's a gap between those SNAP resources that are
Right.
available and being at the right income level to afford
Right.
what things cost these days. And that's where the hard work is being done,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because there's a misperception of the type of people that need food access.
Oh, right.
That,
right.
they're, I don't even want to go into the misperception that we hear, but that they maybe don't need what
Right.
is being offered.
Yeah.
Do you see that often?
Not with the food.
Mm.
Not with the food. I just decided I'm never going to judge it that way ever. Because the few times that I've actually sat and talked to somebody, what are you doing? What do you need this? You hear the saddest stories. Because people, most of the time, they're fairly proud. And I talk about the people that come every time. So we say we have that set of people. Then we have a set of people that says, oh, I don't need anything but they do.
But they do.
And
Yes.
so that's what's kind of nice about the mobile pantry, because it's a little bit more anonymous driving up
Mhm.
in a car than walking in and signing your name.
Mhm.
They do check in at the mobile pantry, but it's just that one person
Yeah.
doing it. Then there's the ones that can't get out of the house, or the ones that are living in the woods. And like the sheriff's department will be aware of that. And we've had like deputies come in and fill up boxes and take them out. We don't know where they're going, and we don't care.
Right.
But he saw that someone needed to be fed. They needed the food. Let's take it out. That's fine. Because and we tell pastors the same thing. I'll give them the code to the door and say, come in. If you know somebody, come in and get it. And I'll come in and do emergency supplies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The idea is here for whoever needs it. And
if they say they need it,
we
trust that they need it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how you personally got involved. Why did you in 1998 decide here's what I'm passionate about?
Well, I'm actually a registered nurse. I started working in hospitals when I was 16. I did that for a long, long time. And I was still working as a nurse when I started this. And it was just like, oh, we need someone to do the bookkeeping on the pantry. I said, I can do that. I feel like I need to do something. I had all my kids at home and stuff, so I was busy and I was working. I started doing that. And you see the needs, and so you step up. And so it's like, we need a bigger pantry. We need to start offering this. We were under CMA, and the only thing that was at the pantry is what someone decided to donate for food that day or that week. And we found out we had some money available, so we started ordering food. So then you get more people involved. And we would buy food for the baskets. If we didn't have enough for the Christmas baskets, we'd go buy it. And I was unloading a truck with Christmas food one year, and a friend drove by. And he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I have to get this." He goes, "Why don't you get help?" "Oh, it's just easier to pull up and unload it." He says, "You're never doing this again." And he was in Rotary. And I'm talking years ago. And Rotary's been helping us unload our orders from our grocery store every month since then. That man was fantastic. And he just died this year. But he was so great, and we all miss him because everybody says no one forgot to come to the storehouse and do the delivery if Don was around, So, but he got the Rotary group involved, so that was their thing, But anyway, so anytime you saw the need, you'd look and say, "Can this grow? Can we do this?" Yes. And so we'd step into it. When we started the backpack program, it was like, should we just do once a month? Is that all we can do? It was like, no, let's do 4 times a month. We can do it. And people would buy into what you were doing, and you go. And that's how this building grew too. It'd be like, hey, we just got a grant. Well, we needed to add on over here. I got to the place where I stopped worrying about it because someone always steps up. There's always something coming in. It's more managing people, make sure you have enough people to handle everything that's happening. Yeah. But even that happens too. If you're short on a shift or something, all of a sudden I'll be like, hey, we're down a couple people, and you come in and there's 6 people that came in to replace the 2 people that were missing. And that's kind of how the whole system has worked. I always said, if you close the gate, the food stops coming through. You can't pass it through. If you open the gates and you're handing it out, it comes back in. And you have to be 100% accountable to your community and how you're using their funds, what you're doing with the food. And there's people that say, well, I'm sure there's abuse. And it's like, oh yeah, every program does.
Yeah.
But I've always told volunteers, I'd rather give too much to someone that doesn't need it than not enough to someone that really, really does need it.
Or not be available for somebody who needs it.
Right. So that's our motto. That's what we do. We just keep giving it out. It keeps coming in. We just keep giving it out.
And so about 30 years. Let's talk about the next. What's the future of the storehouse look like?
Well,
what are your dreams?
Like I said, okay, so I've been doing this since 98. I'm 65 next year. I'm still in the back of the trucks unloading the boxes.
Good for you.
Every month. But I always say to my board of directors, what happens if I get hit by a truck? What are you going to do?
I always like to say kidnapped by a unicorn.
Yeah, something like that.
Sounds a little better.
Yeah, that is better. Maybe I'll use that next time. So and I'd have to say that's where I've erred, is maybe need to treat it a little bit more like a business.
Succession planning.
Yes, and get more of a framework in place. I do have a board of directors. They do great. I don't touch the money. I don't do a lot of stuff. I have someone else doing that. So we have different people handling stuff, and we have great teams of people working. But it's half of it's in my head,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you do a little bit at a time before 30 years is gone and it's like this. So in the last year or so, we've been working on policies and procedures where we get them written down. You can flip through a book, know what to do, and talked about continuity. And so someone has to replace me, and I am still a volunteer. And it's like, no one's going to do this for free anymore because I stepped into it one step at a time.
Sure.
If I'd looked back 30 years ago and said, you're going to do this, I would go,
It's too much all at once. Sure.
Yeah. I have fantastic people in place. So we were offered a nice check, and they wanted the money to be used for something particular. And we just did all of our building stuff. We just did the crushed asphalt. We did our addition. We got a brand new walk-in freezer because that one,
Nice.
when we bought it 14 years ago, it was already used then.
Sure.
And so we had to get a new walk-in freezer. So it's like, we're really sitting really nice. What can we use that money for? Well, I can direct it to Wildcat Pantry, whatever one of these, and that wasn't clicking with them. And she goes, so what do you guys got planned? I said, we need to pay for a director so we can get someone in place that is paid to do this job. And then once they're in the job, that part of their job is to raise the money to pay for themselves as well. So we're deciding that so that's the seed money for an account where we're going to try and raise the money, possibly an endowment. We're still in discussion place where we can set up the money to pay for a director. So we have continuity, and we're trying to firm up all of our policies and our procedures and get stuff written. And it's hard to do. It's hard to sit down and write that stuff out.
It is.
But like, we have a new board member that has a lot of experience in this, and he was just perfect for the time. And so he's working with us on this too. So everybody fell into place that we needed.
Isn't that incredible how that happens? Like the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk just a little bit about your relationship with Feeding South Dakota.
Okay.
And what that has meant for the work that's happening here. Were you a partner agency of Feeding South Dakota in 1998 when you started, or tell us how that came to be?
I'm trying to remember.
If you remember.
I'm trying to remember what year it happened. I don't think it happened until we moved in here.
Okay.
And I talk about Marge, and
that was about 14 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2010. May of 2010, we opened our doors. So she's big on the pantry side of things, and so I can't even remember why we started using Feeding South Dakota. I just remember, you have to get your name in. These are the people that can shop. This was way before COVID, because we were shopping. We'd go into the warehouse even and shop and pick stuff up. And we started ordering, and we've been ordering once a month ever since. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the year. I should have looked it up, but it's been years. And
so what advantage was that to
cost? And we purchased from our grocery store once a month. And like I said, we used to have 2 grocery stores, one burned down. They were lovely too. Oh, they were so good. And we have a good rapport with them, and they give us a really good price and such, but no one can beat 18 cents a pound for ground beef. And a lot of other items. We go through the menu and purchase whatever we can from Feeding South Dakota before we order from our local grocery store. So we'd use them as much as we can. It's hard to pass up that deal. And like I said, the rapport with the drivers and working with those guys.
The team is so great.
It's so great. And I mean, Mary and she comes and checks the pantries, and she was in Buffalo Gap. She's here. So Mary's great. There was a while there, I think I was emailing her or calling her at least once a month about something or another. Mostly computer system, but just great.
Yeah. So, and that's, when we as Feeding South Dakota think about our community partners, it's really in our mind an extension of the work that we're doing. Like the work to fight hunger in South Dakota would not be possible if it weren't for places like the Storehouse that are here and doing the things in the time we're not here.
Right.
And so if we're able to provide food to those partners to keep that work going.
Yeah, and it's a place. It's a place for distributing again.
Right, and it feels like we can maybe make some headway. But where was I going to go with this? I had a great natural path here. Let me think a second. What was I going to say? Wow, that all just went away.
I don't know. Cost?
No.
Rapport with the workers.
Oh,
I have to say, I didn't know much about Feeding South Dakota until we started looking at him to do the purchasing and such. I just was aware that Rapid City had a huge food pantry,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I knew. And then we started
Looking
figuring
into it.
stuff out. Yeah, it's like, whoa, okay.
Look what we can do here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the direction I was going to go is you talk about ground beef at 18 cents a pound.
Mhm.
And what do you see as high demand foods for families that are coming in? And because you, as a nurse, you probably understand some of what we've been talking about is it's not just
Nutrition.
about food, it's
Yeah.
about nutrition.
Right.
And you mentioned earlier that, people are choosing between medicine or gas
Yeah.
or that type of thing. And so the types of foods that stop being purchased when a budget gets tight are those fresh proteins, the dairy, the fresh produce. So what do you see as high demand for people who are coming in to the pantry?
Well, meat, cheese, butter, like that. We worked through Feeding South Dakota to do the shelf milk.
Yeah,
I
didn't know about that until I started.
Right. I didn't know about it either, and that's a big one.
And it's just I don't know what, like the ones I've seen go in the backpack. So it's like a juice box, but it's milk
It's 32 ounce that we hand out to the family.
and it's shelf stable.
Yes.
That's
Until
just
you open it
incredible
in
to
the
me.
refrigerator. Yeah. So that's great because we only have so much refrigerator space.
Yeah.
But proteins, I guess. Proteins and carbs, they like their cereal.
Mhm.
And what else we do besides handing out our regular sack of foods is we end up calling them the threes. So when we have a big food drive, we get the stuff that we put in our regular bags, but then you get the stuff you don't put in the regular bags. So we put those out on the shelf by themselves, and everybody's able to grab 3 of those items along with their regular packs.
What kind of items are those?
Oh, anything from pickles to, see, it's right behind you even, cake mixes to a bag of raisins to huge cans of soup or pinto beans, or it's just all the stuff that doesn't go in your regular basket.
Yeah.
So they have those choices too. Plus, you get expired food in the food drives or donations. And I know you can keep expired foods for longer than their expiration dates, but every one of them's different. So to keep track of that is crazy. So if it's expired on the day that you look at it, it goes on what we call our expired cart. And that's out there with the understanding and explanation about this is how long food lasts. So they're free to grab off of that too.
And that's a choice for them.
That's a choice. Yeah. So they can take it or not. And we don't have limits or anything. It's just like, take it. We get a lot of fresh stuff comes from the community gardens in the summer. And this time of year, a lot of potatoes and carrots and celery because they want them to have a Thanksgiving dinner. So it's kind of seasonal what's going on, what's at the store, and it'll come in. We get hunters that will have venison. We have limits on what meat we take. The venison is not monitored or inspected by federal agencies, but we say it has to go through a processor.
Yeah.
We don't do the home process.
Yeah, that's smart.
And of course, the beef and the bison has to have federal inspection. So that's the hard thing. Is
a little more challenging in South Dakota, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So we have families who are like, oh, we'd like to donate a side of beef. And it's like, did you take it to a federally inspected place? Look for the little thing, you know.
So hard.
Yeah. It's hard to turn them down, but yeah. But we do have inspectors.
So okay. One of the things that was very apparent to me when I walked in here to the storehouse, I walked in and we were talking for a while, and I said, so is there a charge for anything here? And you said no, because it's set up like a thrift store.
Yeah.
Like it looks just like how I would walk into a thrift store. Things are displayed on shelves and clothing is hung, and the pantry window is, it's just like, like a service window. And for me, as I think about that, people who need services like this are people, and they still deserve the dignity and the ability to come in. And I appreciate that you said, we've got the corner of toys right over here, so mom can shop, and the kids are right here. And you said shop. And to me, I think that's just such an important thing to integrate into this work, where people don't feel like they're digging through somebody's leftovers.
Oh, yeah.
Or, that there's not this inability to have choice.
Yeah.
So I really love how you're like, yes, we know we can eat these foods, but we're going to choose to put them over here so they can choose if they want to eat those foods.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's a really great way to do that.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been so great to talk to you. And I didn't get here on a day that the store is open, but
it would have been too busy. Seriously.
So, like, that's how many people do you think you serve in a day when you're open?
Well, just for the food, 20 to 40 families. There's more coming in for what we call the exchange, and they might not use the food, but they're here. But it's this place is packed.
It's hopping.
Yeah, the parking lot is packed. We serve over 300 different families. We know
Wow.
just with the food. We don't.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
In a month, in a week,
over a year. Within a year,
over
we
a year,
300 different
families.
families. Yeah. So we're looking 60, couple hundred visits a month.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And just I'm looking at the shelves. It's full of food. I'm looking at the exchange. There's lots
Oh yeah.
of things out there. So
Yeah.
you're lucky to have that continued support and be
Oh,
able
yeah.
to provide this in the community.
Well, you got to be honest with the community. This is what we're bringing in.
Mhm.
This is what we're putting out. This is who's taking it. We're okay with it.
Yeah.
And if they support that, they're here either helping or with volunteering. A lot of them come in and actually help, or they're providing food and money. So
I think you're going to need a new building.
no.
I don't think you're going up, but I think you're going to need a new building at some point.
we got to make this work. We're making this work.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, for having me here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Come back someday when you're open, and I'll jump in on a volunteer duty.
Yeah.
It won't scare me. I can do it. It's
You
hard
can
work.
do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
At minimum, I can just stock things in the back or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Or come back here and check expiration dates with them.
Yes, I can do that. Well, thank you again for joining us and this conversation with Kim here at the Storehouse in Custer. We hope you've learned a little bit about how our community partners are doing great work out here in the smaller communities of South Dakota. We'll see you on the next episode.